Welcome to the Tribe of Testimonies. Here you will find conversations with faithful Native American members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sharing their stories and their love of the Savior. My name's Andrea Hales. I'm Navajo, and I'm glad that you've decided to come and join us today. Well, my guest today is my mom's first cousin. It was meant to be. My guest is Geneva Garner, and as she was describing some things, I'm like, we have things in common. So when we were finished, I started asking her questions, and she's like, wait a second. Are you? And I'm like, yes, that is me. And yeah, so my mom and Geneva are first cousins, and I'm so happy. After we did the actual recording of the interview, we just sat and visited for a while, and I'm really grateful for that. I am so grateful that that I got this opportunity to visit with Geneva, and I hope you have a good time listening to her, because I love the things that she says and shares about the gospel through her grandma and through her life. And so here is Geneva. I am on the phone this morning with my new friend, Geneva Garner. I'm just so happy that we could meet. Her friend was the one that gave me her name, and I'm glad, Geneva, that you picked up the phone the day when I called randomly out of the blue. So, Geneva, would you please introduce yourself in your tribal way as much as possible? If it's in your language, great. If it's not, that's fine. Not everybody speaks their language, and some languages are dead.
Okay. Hi, Geneva Garner Shia. Honagani Ainsle. Do Sanajini Edoshe. She Yahay Kintlechitni. Sandle. Do Shanale Yahay Belagana that Sun and Shle. Kodo, the cheat is a huddle in a sha. Cheat days I dodging. Get now. She sandosh masan the bagande and the quiet a quiet kid a hit. Cut out Nia the ho a quiet. Okay, I'm Geneva Garner. I'm of the One Who Walks Around clan. My father is of the Blackstreet clan. My maternal grandpa, who adopted my mother, is of the Red House clan, and my father side are Anglo, white people. That's who I am. We are here in Sanders, Arizona. We have been raised here. My great-grandparents came here and have been here forever. And that's who I am. That's me.
Love it. Would you, Geneva, please share something that you love about your heritage? It can be pretty much anything: a story, a celebration, a way of life, a ceremony, a celebration. What do you love about your heritage as it relates to the gospel of Jesus Christ?
Oh, I'm gonna be picky, and I'm gonna talk about my grandmother. My grandmother Maggie. She's our maternal grandma. She's the main clan. That's who I am. We didn't call her grandma, or we didn't call her masana, nothing like that. We called her ma. Ma. It was like mom, ma. Um, she gave me my way of life. She gave me my foundation. And I would like to talk to her about her because she had a lot of good things running, a lot of good teachings that really set the foundation of me and my siblings, my cousins, and whoever knew her. Um, she also was a really strict person. She was authoritative. She married, and her husband passed away early. Well, she had 6 young children, and they had plenty. They had cattle, they had sheep, and he left her in that. And I remember hearing her, you know, still get after him years later after he was deceased, about, you left me in all this and you left me to do this. And he just left me in all this work. And she would be, when she was upset. But but that is why I think she was authoritative, and she had to be strict. But she was also very loving. We knew she loved us. I don't know why, but in the native way, um, we don't really express, love you. We don't hug. We don't touch. We just know when they're yelling at us that they love us. And she could be funny, but boy, she loved work, and she labored even on Sundays. But she always had plenty because of this. I think well, she was very fortunate to have the things that she had too. And but what she concentrated, what really influenced us was, I don't really know what to call it, but it formed our characteristics, morals, our manners, things like that. So what I did, this interview gave me the opportunity to go look at the Ten Commandments, and I compared it, and it was real interesting that she did touch on some of the things that are the Ten Commandments. One of them was don't steal. And boy, when she told you, you don't steal, you had a lecture. I mean, that was the lecture for the day or the hour. Just we like. But in Navajo, they would say, they put their finger in your ear and rub it in, so you could hear it. And that's kind of how she did it. Not that she put her finger in our ear, but, she said, don't ever steal, because that's how you will be known. Don't ever steal anything that's not yours. Don't touch it. Don't take it. That is not yours. You leave it. Leave it alone. Um, so we learned that early, and it's stuck. I don't know how she did it, but it's stuck. Um, Another thing was to listen to your elders. To your mom, your dad, grandma, grandpa. Listen to them. um, that had to do with to honor our parents. And in the native way, our parents weren't only mom and dad. It was also grandma and grandpa and Nolly, and on dad's side too. Although it seems like we gear ourselves more towards our mother's side, the maternal side. Because we lived close to them. And dad had to move over to mom's Hogan, and so we 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 were closer to the maternal side. She also was against cussing, and she said it wasn't ladylike. She says you don't talk like that. And back in the day, I'm in my 70s now, my early 70s. So back in, and I still feel like a young gal. I mean, in my mind, not my body. But that would have been the 60s is when I was really aware of it, but the late 50s. And she just said, you don't talk like that. And back then it wasn't prevalent. We might have heard a D word, but um, not the words we hear today, and not so often. And she would just say, "You don't talk like that," especially when there wasn't an example. Someone might, maybe a lady might let it slip, but there was hardly a lady that cussed. But and she'd say, you don't ever talk like that. And of course, we just knew about "thou shalt not kill." That was understood. There were things that were understood. If you know this, you don't do this. And so today we'd like to think that, but it seems like we have to say it, but yet it should be understood. um oh gosh, "thou shalt not commit adultery" was huge. Not that it seems like it was done, but I think in those years it was hidden. So but it would stop a lot of things. And going to dances in high school, I remember grandma and mom was real big in our lives too, but mom was quiet. And we lived next door to grandma, so grandma was, she'd overtake, and what she just said it louder. So that's why I'm concentrating on her. But mom was an enforcer, but she did it in a nice way. She didn't wasn't as forceful as grandma was. Um, but I remember my sister going to the prom or something, and she'd get a lecture before those kinds of things. Sex was a no-no, you know. And yeah, maybe it was a hidden activity in those early years, but it was just a no-no, and she just bluntly said it. And then talk along with those lines, she talked about no loud laughter. Remember the scripture about that said that no loud laughter? And she'd say that, especially close to the opposite sex. Don't be carrying on, being silly and laughing. You don't do that. And same with your behavior. We have loud behaviors, not only in noise, but in dress. And so thereby the modesty came in, cover yourself. And I remember in the early years, 50s, 60s, we didn't wear pants. I think we started wearing pants till the 70s, yeah, 80s. Um, but we had our dresses, and oh gosh, we know to this day, and even my granddaughters know, keep your legs together. Don't you don't sit there with your legs separated, and you keep your legs together. You pull your dress down over your knees. Um, so our behavior and being modest was very important. You don't spaghetti straps. Oh my Lord, you don't do that. You wear sleeves. And some of those pictures back in the day, the natives, they had even two shirts on, and it's so hot. And some of them were wearing, maybe a light jacket on top of their t-shirt and their shirt. But then I remember they said too that, they didn't have suitcases and things like that, so they would dress in layers, and as they got dirty, they took them off. So I think maybe that might have been a part of it. But swimming suits, short shorts, even shorts, above the knee, those kinds of things were a no-no. And that reminded me of that commandment, "thou shalt not commit adultery." There's just a lot of things that are connected to it. And we talk about it every conference, every so often we hear about this subject, and we need to. And then she said, when you married, she told us girls, when you married, you concentrate on your family. You concentrate on your husband and your home. Don't look at other men. That was understood again. She said, concentrate on the food, the home, the cleanliness, the children, um, and how I think about how this is all intertwined, especially that commandment, because there was so much that was taught in that, um, how the gospel is like that too. It's intertwined. If you're talking about thou shalt not commit adultery, you're talking about modesty. You're talking about the standard. Um, what is it? What's the title? The standard works for the youth. The booklet. There's things in there that you just cover so much. But that was a big thing that we heard from Grandma. And don't laugh at people, unfortunate people. And there was a saying that went along with that. You be careful. It might come back on you. You might be homeless one day. You do not laugh at people. And that went right along with the handicapped people. Don't stare at them. Don't talk about. Don't put it down. Just leave it. That's the way it is. But you don't laugh about it. Um, and I don't think they really understood the handicapped people. I don't think Grandma really knew. She didn't say this child is a Down syndrome because of this or that. That wasn't understood. It's just that you don't laugh at people. And I I really appreciated that later, as we had our children. We have 5 children, and um, to just you teach what you teach what you were taught without planning. And so my kids have heard these things, and then they in turn pass it on. And with Grandma not knowing how to read or write English, that's how it was done. Her mother had evidently taught her that way. And where did great grandma got it from, so it was just passed down that you don't do this, you don't do that. um the other thing was, to work, always be laboring, always doing. That's how you'll get it done, that's how you'll get somewhere. Do not be slothful. There's another scripture there. um Early to bed, early to rise. Gosh, I had a problem with that. It's just so hard. But
Me
then,
too.
yeah, a lot of us. And that, they didn't have electricity, so that made sense for them. But we had electricity, so we could stay up. But it was so true. I've gotten up early. You get more done when you get up early, and when you go to bed early, you're rested to get up early, and that's still, that's in the word of wisdom. um, Early to bed, early to rise. Um, and that's the way Grandma lived. And I guess you have to live that way if you're going to have livestock. If you're going to get ahead on those weeds, if you're going to go plant, if you're going to do something, you did it. And so you look around. Today you look around. We sleep in. We don't want to get moving till 1 o'clock. Oh, can you pick me up at 1? Oh, but I got to get going. Could have come back by 8 or 9. And no, I won't be ready. And with all the assistance where, we get money for food and so forth, the availability of that, it allows us to be slothful and lazy. And she was really against that. Oh, but my mom and dad, you move back a notch. So mom and dad, we'd get to sleep in late Saturday morning, no school, and oh, so nice. And go ahead. Once in a while, we would do that, especially if we knew Grandma was not going to be home. Grandma, Grandma was about a good stone throw away from our home. She was over there, And when she was coming to our house, if she was and kind of mad, like on the warpath, we need to get going, where nobody's moving, Saturday morning, and we're still in bed and we hear her coming, I we laugh about how we would jump up, throw the covers on the bed and sit there, hurry and put our clothes on and sit there, with our bushy hair and sleepful eyes and pretend we've been sitting there for the last 30 minutes. Yeah, right. She and of course the doors were locked, but she was there, and she was knocking and beating on the door, and we'd let her in. Oh, we'd get a lecture about being late, about not getting up early, and how life is passing by and you're not going to get nothing out of life by doing this. And she'd go, "Tiens, tiens, and that means poverty, poverty. It's what you're laying there for." She says, "Let's go. And so my mom would say, "Okay, they'll be there." Either it usually was to go weeding at the garden or go help with the hot water or do something. She always had a job for us. I had four brothers and two sisters. Us sisters were the oldest. The younger brothers, all of us, she needed all of us. And so some of us would get out of it because, like, we had to go with mom here or there. And usually that was my older sister. And I would end up going with grandma and some of the boys. And so this is how, but from those teachings, we learned how to work. We learned so much. We learned how to to be fast, get up before grandma gets in the morning. But we learned, and that's part of the gospel. Look at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Look at their helping hands vests. They're at these disasters. These people aren't slothful. They're members are workers. And you think of the pioneers and you think of long ago what they had to do to, even the buildings they left. Look at the Salt Lake Temple. It wasn't by people getting up at one, or it wasn't easy, but that there's just so much built from that, so many traits, so it just makes us better people. And those are the people that we want to be affiliated with, and not lazy people who don't do, and the work doesn't show. As much as I hated it, I think we were most thankful for that, because she taught that. Um, Another thing she would mention is not to spread gossip, not to talk, like that. Just get out. Just don't be near that. Now, grandma loved to visit. She was a talker. In fact, I go with grandma to different houses, and she'd visit other grandmas and talk. But it wasn't about people. It was about going here, or how to do this, or how to sew that, or how to do the corn. It was not. It was good talk, and those were the visits, and then we'd go on. I don't know. She'd have visiting days. I guess she was doing visiting teaching. She was ministering. Um, we'd go from house to house for like half a day, and then we'd go home. And sometimes especially in the fall, she'd have a truckload of the melons and the zucchinis and the corn, things from the garden, and she'd pass those out as we went around. She's very fortunate. She had a vehicle, and she drove it, and I'd be in there, no seatbelt. I'd be standing by grandma and sitting by her, and we'd go our way. Um, so don't just and the way she said it, it interpreted as, well, it's she'd say, "Ado ado adzal shvitahosne ado adzal dahosne," and it was like, don't just do it. It sounds like don't just do it any old way, but I think what she meant was don't be telling untrue things. Just don't say it. Um, and this all goes back to the gospel, and we've heard these talks. The big thing that she would say is to help others. If and we know that if someone's fallen, what did Christ do? Even though that person was a Samaritan, he stopped on the road to Emmaus and he helped. And he went all the way, paid and left money for things to help that person get better. If somebody fell, you go over and you help. And that's what she said. You help people. You don't just look at them, you help them. That was a big thing, and we needed to hear it then. We need to still hear it. Always help others, and so she was a server. She wanted better for others. Grandma was fortunate. She was very blessed. Like I said, she had a vehicle and she had plenty to eat, and food was a big thing. Have you ever noticed how food is a big thing? You know, in grandparents' places, in our mothers' homes, it's food. You know, food we eat. They try to make it as yummy as possible. They always try to make as much as possible. And I, our home wasn't as fortunate. Sometimes we had to go to grandma's to eat, but what they had, they just made it yummier. And you remember those tastes. I think that's why a lot of these city natives come home and they go to the Gallup flea market and you see them eating the mutton and the breads and the corn and we cater to that because that's what they did for us, and it was through love, and and then she'd share these things. um I wish I was better. I wish I was like her. I was better. I don't know what it is, but I need to work on that. But and even our own personal families today, when we have the families come in for an occasion or just to come. Sometimes though, I lack that. I don't have things ready, and here I have, like I have the crock pot, and we have pressure cookers, or what's the latest? I can't even remember
The
the latest.
instant pot.
Yeah, we have those, and the other day my kids came by and I didn't have any food. We took out the frying pan, so we cooked up the meat, and bang bang bang, we got a meal. But why wasn't I ready? But grandma was ready, and they didn't have the conveniences. They'd always just I know a lot of natives who just build a fire outside and they have their bread made and their food made, and that's just so neat. And it really does bring people together. And I know it's just not natives, it's just everybody. People come together and eat, and a lot of memories from that.
Yeah. I just recently heard somebody praying and thanking Heavenly Father that we have all these conveniences now so that we we have more time to do God's work.
Oh yeah, all just like technology, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so I think it depends on how we use our time. Are we using that extra time to help other people, or are we using that time selfishly?
that's true. And the way of the world now, it's selfishly, and so we need to rethink that. it really is good to evaluate every so often. And I don't do that often. But food, and she had it and she shared it. We lived across from a store that sold liquor, and we have some of them actually stagger over because they knew they could eat at grandma's. And she would always heat up her drink, their favorite drink, coffee, and talk with them for a while, and they'll come down and feed them. And every time she says, I wish I would learn that lesson, not to feed them till they've worked for it, but she would feed them first, and they were supposed to chop some wood for her. And they invariably they disappear before they did their job. They had eaten, so they were going to go back across. And but other times she'd say, last time you did that to me, so if you chop wood, I'll get your food ready now. So they would chop like 2, 3 armfuls, and then they would come in and eat, and then they would be on their way. Um, but it didn't matter. This was someone who was almost drunk. They would, come and know where to go to eat. Um, but she did that. Uh, Trying to think of what else needs to be said there. But those things she taught, so that laid the foundation for my coming into the church. It was difficult to become a member because I was 27 before I was baptized. But it was really funny whenever the Mormons came, and those were the elders. Whenever they came, they would be chased out of the yard, and it wasn't grandma's yard; it was my mom and dad's yard. And so I'd actually watched this, and I thought, okay, these are people that you chase away. So we didn't know the gospel, and we would say we were Catholics, even though we weren't there every Sunday. Um, but this went on, and that just wondered about who those people were, who those young people were. And drive by the church, there was a prominent Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints building, and there'd be people there, and you just wonder. I'd wonder, in my youth. And there were plenty of Pentecostal and Baptist churches around, and I partook of the Pentecostal church, the two that were in the area, and loved the feeling. I always knew there was someone up there, and I don't remember when I started praying, but there was always a prayer in my heart, but I didn't know, I didn't plan to say this, but it's going that way. And I didn't connect grandma's teachings there till I don't know. I don't know. It had to have been later. But what's so funny is dad's parents, my my grandparents were members, but we weren't close enough to them. They lived it's probably about an hour and a half away, and we'd make the trip like once a year in the summer to visit them, but nothing was ever said about the church. Um, and so this went on and on. And just real quickly, this is so neat. This is part of my testimony. Um, I was a kindergarten teacher. Um, 3 little Mormon girls were in my class. Little pretty girls with their pretty little dresses and curls, and we'd have the school would serve breakfast, and I would get my cup of coffee, and they usually sat in front of me. Why are you drinking that? Why are you drinking that? And I told them, well, it's good. It's waking me up. But you're not supposed to drink coffee. And I looked at them. I knew they were Mormons. I said, why can't I drink coffee? And I knew Mormons didn't drink coffee. And they said, well, it's not good for you. 5 years old. That made an impression on me, in all my busy life. And I was 26, I guess then, and it was put in the back of my mind, and I went on my way, being busy, but it was there, and they were in my class every day. And so then there was a teacher next door, student teacher coming in to teach, and found out he was Mormon. And what was so impressive is he knew how to speak Navajo, and he was Anglo. And I thought, okay, one of those Mormons that just knows everything. But it was very impressive. He could speak it, and he was going to be a first grade teacher. Remember, I'm kindergarten, and you don't get many first grade teachers back in the 70s. Um, so I asked one day, what do you guys really believe? What do you believe? And I'm curious. I don't, isn't it awful? We don't even know what they believe, and we've already judged them because of, you know, what went on, having them leave our yard. And so he, he, he just, I told him, you can tell me only one thing. I don't need the whole thing, just one thing. And so told me one thing, and darn if that didn't ignite the fire. I wanted him to tell me all of it, but he would not because I already made the rule, to tell me one thing. So we started having lessons, and I heard it. And because of my Pentecostal, the background I have, there was something lacking. There was something lacking. It felt good. It was good, but there's something lacking. It wasn't all there. It wasn't all there. And so it just bothered me. And then with him telling me these things, anyway, it filled that space, and I wanted it. I wanted all of it. So I was baptized by this guy, and this guy I married. I married him in the temple.
Oh.
And he learned the Navajo language because he served on the Navajo reservation as a as an elder missionary. So we married in the temple a year, after a year after I was baptized. And talk about fulfilling that thing that was missing in my search among the churches. And I went to the Catholic Church my first, second, third year, fourth year. I went to public school. Um, some of my siblings were baptized. For some reason, I was skipped. There were three of us in our family that were skipped. The father would come, knew the sisters, but it just, even the Catholic Church, every Friday, I'm pretty sure it was every Friday of school, we would go to the chapel, and we would go through um, a mass, and I just could never make the connection. So I went to other churches, but it just didn't grab me as much as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if the population that's against the church would give it even just a little bit, half a chance, they would fulfill that feeling that I'm sure we had before we came to this earth. But it was good. It was familiar. It was home. It was, and it's going to carry me home. I know. I'm a crybaby. I'm sorry, but I don't know how I got off on that, but the things that Grandma taught really helped set us up so that we could have a good life, and then we could be connected to what we're really here for, and take us back Um, and you know, I I I would say this through my life with the kids. You know, Grandma would say this, Grandma would say this. You know, and we had her until she was 81. She was born in 1900. She passed in 80, I think. That's my record anyway. And and you know, whenever things were done, you know, this is the way Grandma would do it. This is the way Grandma said, you know, and 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 I don't go a week, maybe not even 2 days without saying Grandma. And now that Mom and Dad are gone, you know, we remember them, and I'm sure everybody does that. I can't be the only one. You know, we remember those that have gone on who taught us, and that's who we are now. And I'm just so glad it was connected to the gospel.
Yeah. That's so cool that you married your coworker who helped convert you. You mentioned that you want to talk about the temple a little bit. You did say that you got married in the temple, and how how often have you been able to attend the temple, and are you looking forward to the temple that's coming near you soon?
um, you know, the thing that really brought me into church, those little girls were wonderful. They got the lessons going. We got the lessons. But the thing that just won me over were the temples. That's how I know that just, you know, if I had it, well, there wasn't any doubt, but the temple was like the frosting on the cake. Oh my goodness. Because in the Navajo way, we don't talk about death. We don't go back to the graves. We don't, well, you know, the real traditional people don't go back. You don't mention their name. You take their pictures down, you know, and because they're gone. And, you know, I'm just so glad that we have a God that provided a way, a way for us to know them, to see them again, to be with them forever. I mean, that's the plan. There's not even a plan of salvation isn't even mentioned in other churches. And that was another plug for me. The map was laid out when I came into the church. You know, there was no maybes or maybe if, you know, we know where we came from, we know why we're here, and we know where we're going. And with knowing, and then with Grandma's death, Grandma died in 80. I became a member in 77. So it was really still new to me. I was still coming, you know, well, I'm still learning. I don't know much, but um to know that I hadn't lost Grandma to the outer darkness forever and ever, and I would never see her, was just horrible, you know, and to know that there was a way through the church, through being a member, that we're still connected, that she's very much near, brought me in, took us to the temple, took me to the temple, did her work. That was so special to do her work. And, you know, to be able to, whenever they pass, wait that year and take them in because they're not members. My mom wasn't a member. I'm the only member among my siblings. And now that's another story, you know, how hard that is. And for them to not like what you believe in, you know, is difficult. But what I believe in is so much more important. So you plug on. But to know that I will see Grandma again, and those that have gone on before, that those that we know, is so difficult to do. these names and so forth, but to be able to know that we'll see each other again is just it's just wonderful. And that's all in the scriptures too, you know. And the temple, when you look at the temple, if I was really with it, I would know everything. But the temples face east, and so do our hogans. So there again is a connection back to the tribe, what we know. And the temple, I think I can say this. We're separated. The women sit together on one side and the men sit on one side. And that's what we do in the Hogan when there's a ceremony. The women sit on the one side usually on the north side of the Hogan, and the men sit on the south side, and the medicine man is there in the middle. There are similarities. There are similarities in the initiatory work that is done in the Hogan with the medicine man. And it was familiar because my grandma didn't really herd us into the Hogan to do um, a ceremony. She didn't demand that. But when she did, but it wasn't often that she did that. And then it was even worse with my mom. She didn't do it often, and then with me, I haven't had a ceremony. I only had the ceremony in the temple. That's what we use, and encourage our children to do that. Um, but it's so interesting how things that have been done, and things that were told way back in the day that weren't written down were carried on by word of mouth. Have these connections um, to the gospel, to what we know, and now we know um, where it's coming from. I love that. I just so love that.
So, Geneva, I have loved all the things how you have related the Ten Commandments and so many of the other um, things that just make our lives pure and good to what your grandmother and the way you were raised. I love that so much because I I truly believe that our native ways are founded on the teachings that our Savior brought to us. And so I really appreciate all the things you've mentioned. I do have one final question for you. What does it mean to you to know that you belong to the tribe of Israel?
That's a good question. Now I had to kind of look and see what Israel was, because um, I just thought, okay, I know we're Gentiles till we've we find out who we are. We're Gentiles, and we want blessings. We want to be part of the group that's going back to the right place. So through baptism, we come back into the tribe of Israel, and thank heavens for our patriarchal blessings. If you haven't gotten your patriarchal blessing, you should really get it. It just tells us so much. I know I'm guilty of not reading it often, and I really need to. Um, but mine is just basic, and and but yet it just has so much. It has so much to do with motherhood. Motherhood is like an umbrella, so I guess that's why mine was short. But I married late. I was 26 years old. I decided I was going to be an old maid. Can you imagine? So I just thought, okay, I'm not getting married. And I'm not a member yet, remember? So I thought, okay, I'll just be on my way. So I wasn't a dater. I mean, I didn't date much. And so the minute I decided that, I met this returned missionary who was student teaching at the school. Um, who was carrying around all this information. Anyway, um, so so anyway, it was good to get the patriarchal blessing. So motherhood was what I'm told. Is my main thing. Um, and so thinking I was going to be an old maid, I didn't wasn't thinking that. And then here my patriarchal blessing said this, and I think we were expecting one at that time. Little did I know I was going to have 5 children, well, let alone be married. So it was a wonderful thing, and it was so wonderful to marry a member, um, and to progress like that um, through life. But in my patriarchal blessing, I am of the tribe of Ephraim, and the tribe of Ephraim says has the privilege of carrying the message of the restoration of the gospel to the world and gathering scattered Israel. That's why I agreed to help Andrea today. I'm like, I was going to put my brakes on, and then I thought, be helpful. Grandma would say that. Be helpful. This is a good word. Pass it. And I just hope that something that I said today will have touched someone, and they would remember, or they would know that this is such a wonderful thing we're a part of, all of us, to know who we are and to even have patriarchal blessings. Oh, what a blessing to know the map, even to know our personal road map, to know who we are. I'm thankful to be a member of this true church upon this earth, to be able to be a part of it, and to be able to do just a little bit help in all that we do. And it is very important that we do much where we are, because we are in Zion. It's not in Salt Lake City. I used to think it was in Salt Lake City. Why don't we move up to Salt Lake City? That's where everything is. No, it's right where you were planted. And we need to do all that we can where we are. Do all the ministering that is, assigned us, and do the callings that we do. We are assigned, whether it's hard and it's not our favorite, but do it because it makes us better people. And Grandma would say that if she knew about it. You do your best. You do it. Get up early and study your scriptures. Gosh, if she had the gospel in her life, she would have been like that. Oh, she would have been, on her way. But it's because she loves us, still present. And that's why the Lord, that's why things are the way it is, because of that love. That's why you're doing this interview, is because you love what it's accomplishing. You love the Lord, and that should be our goal. We should all do our part and try to make things better and help our brothers and sisters to understand. I love my God. I believe. I believe in the things that our prophet says, our leaders. I just love those men. It's funny how at general conference, like just say Henry B. Irene, oh, you know them, and you know what they're going to say, and you have your favorites. We have our favorites, but oh, they all have good words for us, and we hope, we want to be better so we can all meet again one day. I'm thankful for this opportunity to share. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Geneva. You are wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome, Andrea.
So, there's a great man, pretty much all of us know his name, Abraham Lincoln. He said, "My concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right." Isn't that great? There's so many things like that, right? That God is always right. God is always there. He's always aware. God is always merciful. He is all the good things in abundance. And I want to be part of that team. I want to be a part of the abundance team. I want to look at things and know that there is no limit to the goodness. And I just thought you should hear that today. There is abundance, and we can take advantage of it, and we want to be on that team. And I hope you have a super wonderful, awesome day. Tribe of Testimonies is not sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The music is a traditional hymn, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing," arranged and performed by Kyle Forsyth. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how this podcast is affecting you. And I'm always looking for guests. If you or someone you know would be a great guest, you can reach me at tribeoftestimonies@gmail.com.